Hello, my name is Dan Wu. I'm going to talk about Hakuin's Zen Butterpill meditation practice, which is profoundly simple and also which has profound impact with daily practice. I began my practice in early 2003 after I had already begun a few other kinds of Buddhist practices. I was in the process of going through learning and practicing the four foundations of mindfulness, which is also known as the Satipatthana Sutra, insight meditation, and vipassana. In addition, I was practicing daily two compassion practices, one from Theravada Buddhism, known as metta or loving kindness, the other from Tibetan Buddhism, known as the Great Compassion Practice or Tonglen. In addition, I was learning to just sit as taught by Shunryu Suzuki. I have become interested in practicing with learning more about Buddhist teachers and their practices. I started reading Hakuin's autobiography, and near the end of it, Hakuin described what he considered to be the best meditation practice based upon his own experiences. Hakuin was a 14th century Zen monk in Japan. After an austere period of searching for enlightenment through many practices, including meditation in caves, in the middle of icy-filled streams and lakes, and other extreme meditation practices, Hakuin had gotten sick and sought the advice of another Zen monk known as a master in the Zen tradition. This person told Hakuin that he was doing too much, that his meditation sickness came from not learning to practice the middle way. Hakuin was not satisfied with that information alone, and he decided to go to China and find some original Chan masters. Chan Buddhism is the Chinese name for the form of Buddhism that spread into Japan as Zen Buddhism. Hakuin did find an ancient sage, a Taoist master in China in the 14th century. He was taught the butterpill meditation and returned to Japan, where a few hundred years later, I read a translation of his how to practice this meditation. When I read it, I was suffering from the aftermath of a torn lower left foot tendon that had not been diagnosed correctly. I was suffering from over 12 years of lower back problems, including periodic acute episodes and spasms that arose from past sports injuries, as well as the stress of lots of sitting in my job. When I read the description of the how to practice this meditation, I liked the fact that Hakuin explained that I did not need to learn anything else, that I did not need to know what the concepts, principles, rules, and the like were for Buddhism or anything else, that all I had to do was practice. I also saw that the entire description took only 2 or 3 paragraphs. I'm not going to read the translation. Instead, I'm going to describe what I did, because what I did included a modification to Hakuin's instructions. Hakuin said that in order to begin this meditation, the meditator must visualize and construct a warm butter pill, a warm healing butter pill that is shaped like a duck egg. Then that duck egg of butter is poured through the crown of the skull. When I read that beginning description, I thought that it would be more palatable for me if I visualized some kind of healing elixir, energy elixir, that is contained in a shape like a duck egg. Everything else I did after that was as instructed. I imagined as the duck egg healing elixir was poured into my skull, at the crown of the skull, it would slowly penetrate and distribute itself throughout every part of my body, beginning with the skull, its contents, the outside skin, through the neck, shoulders, arms, to the fingers, through the upper body, the chest, the lower body, all the way down through my legs to the toes. Before beginning this practice, I would thank life itself for the ability to breathe. Hakuin has a more specific suggestion, but in my case, I decided that a simple statement that I believe in would suffice. Hakuin explained in his autobiography that this is a healing meditation, that the imagination would make the duck egg warm, and that part of the evidence of warmth would be a spreading warmth throughout the body. He explained that, in fact, the body would become warmer. I do not remember when this started happening, but I believe it was more than 1 year after I began to practice. I could feel my body warm up. In fact, in the last 13 plus years of practice, in the winter here in the Northwest in Seattle, quite often it is gray and cold, overcast and rainy, day and night here. I'd like to be outside when I can, and in the winter, when it was dry and I could see stars overhead, I would go outside to meditate on the back porch in an area that I put aside. I'm going to begin that last part again because the phone rang and I'm not quite sure how to edit it out. I would go outside if it were clear, dry, and I could see stars overhead. I'll be wearing several layers of clothing, including in the wintertime, an outer layer and a variety of inner layers, such as sweaters, sweatshirts, t-shirts, and the like, and sometimes thermal underwear. When I got to the practice of Hakuin's butterpill meditation in these sessions, at some point I would be warming up so much that I started removing outerwear, beginning with an outside jacket or coat, and continue on until I would be sitting outside, bare-chested, in the cold, even in windy conditions, perfectly warm while I meditated. Last year in 2015, I had been in chronic pain, and I was suffering from complications from a total left hip replacement surgery. In the summer of 2015, we had a heat wave in Seattle that had more 90+ degree days than in previous Seattle history. Our house is not air conditioned, and I was suffering from a skin infection and continuing problems from the surgical complications and medical complications. I found it very difficult to be in the hot room at night and sleep. The temperature would hurt my exposed skin. One night it occurred to me to try Hakuin's butterpill meditation in a slightly different fashion. I felt that if it could warm me up, perhaps it could cool me down. So I visualized a butterpill or elixir uh, shaped like a butter pill, where the elixir was freshly melted glacial ice water, uncontaminated, just above freezing temperature, absolutely clean and pure. For those of you who have seen the movie Waterboy, one of the scenes in that movie includes the water boy, Adam Sandler, being revived with a vial of crystal pure cold water. And as it turned out, when I began the meditation, very quickly my body started cooling down and I fell asleep. Another aspect of the Hakuin meditation is not too different than any of the other meditations I have been practicing for over 13 years. As a former passionate soccer player, I was used to the idea of training and developing skills with constant repetitions until no thought was needed and I had the muscle memory to do whatever it was I wanted to do with a soccer ball. In a lot of ways, meditation seems to have done something similar to me internally. In the early months or years of meditation, I began to develop shortcuts within my own body and mind that brought me to changes that I could feel just a few seconds into beginning meditation. And that has occurred with Hakuin's butterpill meditation. By accident, several years ago, I discovered that I no longer suffered from insomnia if I woke up in any state of discontent, agitation, uncertainty, with nightmares or without nightmares. I would fall back to sleep quickly after beginning the butterpill meditation. Usually it takes me less than 10 seconds before I can feel changes inside of me and I fall asleep. I also realized through experiments that something similar could happen in any situation in which I was awake. I found at business meetings when other people's stress, discontent, negative, toxic, afflictive emotions raged around a room, that instead of trying to shield myself from that experience, I would practice both the Hakuin meditation with my eyes open and also Tibetan Tonglen. Not only did I calm down in those situations, I observed that over time others did too. And those experiences told me that I probably had been a conduit and amplifier for raging storms around me. In the other situations where creativity or focus or concentration could be evolved, I also discovered that the Hakuin meditation was a useful break in which distracted or unfocused thoughts would leave me, and I could go back to whatever I was doing. I found out this was true in the gym, when between sets on weight machines, when I found myself with a wandering mind or feeling fatigued, I would stop and then begin the Hakuin meditation with my eyes closed. And it usually took less than 30 seconds to feel awake and refreshed. I've had other people in gyms come up to me to ask me whether I was meditating because they would see me doing this, and I explained to them I was. One young guy came up to me once at a gym and said that he was very distracted and couldn't seem to be going, and he knows that I had in the past talked to him about what I was doing, whether I can take him through a very short guidance for that. I did, and he disappeared until about an hour later he came back, and said that he tried what I suggested and immediately revitalized him. And he wound up doing far more exercises and at more uh, weights than he had anticipated. I should say that with him, that was probably the shortest, quickest response I've ever heard of for somebody who had not meditated before. I hope that by hearing this, you may find some inspiration to try the Hakuin meditation. In, in January 2012, I found two online resources. One was a blog from a Zen master in Los Angeles about the Hakuin meditation. The other was a YouTube video from Terry Hodgkinson in Canada, in which he gives a guided meditation for the Hakuin Butterpill meditation. More recently, about within the last 2 months, I ran across an article about Bodhidharma and Qigong. Qigong is the internal martial arts that Bodhidharma designed for the Shaolin monks. Bodhidharma brought Buddhism to China. He founded the Shaolin Temple. When I discovered this, I decided to immerse myself in classes on Qigong as well as Tai Chi Kong. Since then, in over 100 classes, I have been seeing similarities in what I've been practicing and being taught for Qigong. And today I believe that the Hakuin brought back from China was some form of Qigong, although I didn't know it for all those years I practiced it. As I mentioned, one of the effects for me of long-term meditation, long-term daily meditation, is that just starting it today seems to create a cascade of changes within my body and mind, which I can feel. The end result of all this is part of one of the reasons that I practice meditation, which is to see the joy in living, to be freer of negative emotions, to be less reactive, to recognize compassion, love, tolerance, joy, and freedom. I hope this vlog I just created might be of some guidance for anybody wishing to learn Hakuin's Butterpill meditation.